A millionaire disguised himself as a poor man and went to a real estate agent to buy a luxury apartment, but was despised. What happens next shocked everyone. In a world of glitz and ambition, Samuel Hawthorne, a millionaire disguised as an ordinary man, infiltrates Victor Lanchester's opulent real estate launch to reveal the dark truths behind the glamour. With Claire, a vibrant agent unknowingly caught in the web of deceit, by his side, Samuel's quest for justice ignites a showdown that could change lives forever. Will the truth prevail, or will the powerful forces of corruption triumph? In the bustling city of New York, where skyscrapers rise like colossi of glass and concrete, an ordinary man is preparing to do the unthinkable. He is going to challenge the world of the rich and powerful. Wearing shabby clothes and a semblance of a man struggling to survive, Samuel Hawthorne, a millionaire in disguise, enters a luxury real estate agency. But his mission isn't just to buy an apartment. It's a quest for justice that will lead him to unexpected confrontations and revelations that will change his life forever. In the bustling heart of New York City, where dreams mingled with skyscrapers and ambition dripped from every corner, Samuel Hawthorne adjusted the frayed collar of his worn-out jacket. The city hummed around him, a chaotic symphony of car horns and distant chatter, but all he could hear was the pounding of his own heart. Today was the day he would step into a world he had long left behind, one that held the key to his purpose. He stood outside a sleek glass building adorned with the names of power players in gold lettering. Hawthorne Realty. The very name made him feel a wave of nausea. It was here that Victor Lanchester, the man who had betrayed him, thrived. Samuel's hands trembled slightly as he brushed them against his trousers, feeling the roughness of the fabric, a constant reminder of his self-imposed disguise. He had traded his tailored suits for these tattered clothes, a decision driven by necessity, but also by a desire to understand the world from a different perspective. Taking a deep breath, he walked through the revolving door, the cool air from the air conditioning hitting him like a wave. Inside, the lobby gleamed with modern art and marble floors that reflected the opulence of the real estate market. A receptionist looked up from her computer, her perfectly manicured nails tapping against the keyboard. Samuel approached her, forcing a smile that felt foreign on his lips. "Good morning," he said, his voice steady despite the racing thoughts in his mind. "Welcome to Hawthorne Realty. How can I assist you today?" she replied, her tone professional but detached. "I'm looking for an apartment," Samuel said, trying to sound casual. "Something modest." The receptionist raised an eyebrow, skepticism flickering across her face. "We specialize in luxury properties, sir." "Are you sure you're in the right place?" "I'm quite sure," he replied, his voice firm. "I need to speak with someone about a rental." "Very well. Please have a seat. I'll notify one of our agents." She gestured toward a plush leather chair, and Samuel sank into it, the weight of his mission pressing heavily on his shoulders. A few moments later, a young woman with bright eyes and a warm smile approached him. "Hi, I'm Claire. I hear you're looking for an apartment." She extended her hand, and Samuel took it, surprised by her firm grip. "Yes," he replied, clearing his throat. "I'm Samuel. I'm looking for something affordable." Claire tilted her head slightly, studying him. "Affordable in this market? That's a challenge, but I'm up for it. Tell me, what's your budget?" Samuel hesitated, knowing that disclosing too much could unravel his carefully crafted facade. "I was hoping to keep it under $1,000 a month." Her eyes widened, and he could see the wheels turning in her mind. "That's going to be tough. Most places around here are well over $2,000, but let's see what we can find." "What are you looking for specifically?" He was struck by her enthusiasm, a stark contrast to the cold efficiency he had expected. "Just a small space. One bedroom, maybe a kitchen. Somewhere I can feel at home," he said, his words tinged with a hint of longing. "I understand. Everyone deserves a place to call home," Claire replied, her voice sincere. "Let's start with some listings I have on file. Follow me." As she led him through the sleek office, Samuel's heart raced. It felt surreal to be surrounded by luxury, glossy brochures of high-rise apartments bathed in sunlight, views of Central Park, and infinity pools that seemed to stretch into the sky. He was a world away from the dilapidated neighborhoods he had come to know so well. Claire stopped in front of a large screen displaying property listings. Here's what I have. This one is a bit outside your budget, but it's a great deal considering its location. She clicked through images of a beautiful apartment with floor-to-ceiling windows. Look at that view. Samuel forced a smile, trying to hide the discomfort gnawing at his insides. It's beautiful, but I really can't afford anything like that. Let's not give up hope yet. There might be some hidden gems we can find if we dig a little deeper, she said, her optimism infectious. As they continued to browse, Samuel found himself drawn to Claire's passion for her work. She spoke animatedly about each property, her eyes sparkling with excitement. I love helping people find their homes. It's so rewarding to see their faces light up when they walk into a place that feels right for them. He couldn't help but admire her dedication. You really care about what you do, don't you? Absolutely. Home is where everything begins, right? It's where memories are made, she replied, her voice filled with warmth. But enough about me. What about you? What brings you to the city? Samuel hesitated, the weight of his past pressing down on him. Just looking for a fresh start, he finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. Fresh starts are good. We all need them at some point, Claire said, her smile unwavering. You'll find your place. I can feel it. In that moment, something inside Samuel shifted. It was as if Claire's unwavering belief in him sparked a flicker of hope that he had long buried. But as quickly as it came, he felt the familiar pang of guilt. He was deceiving her, living a lie while she shared her dreams and aspirations with him. Thank you for your help, Claire, he said, his tone genuine. I appreciate it. Of course. Why don't we set up some viewings for tomorrow? I can show you a few places that might fit your budget, she suggested, her enthusiasm unwavering. Samuel nodded, his heart racing at the prospect. That sounds good. As they finished discussing potential listings, Claire's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and frowned. I have to take this call. Can you wait just a moment? Sure, he replied, watching her walk a few steps away to answer. He couldn't shake the feeling of wanting to reveal everything to her, to drop the act and be honest about who he was. But the fear of losing the connection they had just formed held him back. Claire returned moments later, her expression serious but still warm. I'm sorry about that. Just a quick work-related issue. Now, let's get back to finding you that apartment. As they dove back into the listings, Samuel felt a strange warmth spreading through him. Here he was, a millionaire in disguise, yet feeling more alive than he had in years. He was connecting with someone who genuinely cared, and for the first time in a long while, he felt seen. Tell me more about what you want in your new place, Claire said, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. I just want somewhere I can feel safe, he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. Somewhere I can start over without the weight of the past hanging over me. Claire nodded, her expression softening. I understand. We all have our struggles, but I believe that the right place can help you heal. Samuel felt a lump in his throat. She was right. Maybe this was the first step toward finding not just a new apartment, but a new life. And perhaps, along the way, he would find a way to confront Victor and the injustices he had perpetuated. As their conversation flowed, Samuel began to lose himself in the idea of a fresh start. For the first time, he felt a flicker of excitement for what was to come, not just in terms of real estate, but in life itself. With Claire's unwavering support, he could almost envision a future where he was both free and at peace. Samuel stood outside the gleaming facade of the luxury real estate office, his heart pounding in his chest. The glass doors reflected his ragged appearance, frayed jeans and a worn-out jacket, clashing starkly with the polished world inside. He took a deep breath, squaring his shoulders, reminding himself of the purpose that drove him here. Justice. He pushed the door open, the chime of a bell signaling his entrance. Inside, the office buzzed with the energy of fast-paced transactions. Sleek desks adorned with high-end computers and glossy brochures lined the walls. Sunlight streamed in through the large windows, illuminating the space and casting a warm glow on the bustling agents. Samuel felt out of place, like a moth in a room full of butterflies. Yet he pressed on, determined to find Claire. Can I help you? A voice broke through his thoughts. Samuel turned to see a young woman with bright eyes and an approachable smile. She wore a navy blazer, perfectly tailored, and her hair was pulled back into a neat bun. Yes. I'm looking for an apartment, he replied, trying to sound confident despite the flutter of nerves in his stomach. Great. I'm Claire, she introduced herself, extending her hand. And you are? Samuel, he hesitated, forcing himself to shake her hand firmly. Just Samuel. Nice to meet you, Samuel. What kind of place are you looking for? Claire's enthusiasm was contagious, and for a moment, Samuel felt the weight of his disguise lift slightly. I'm not sure. I just want something cozy. Somewhere I can feel safe, he responded, his voice more vulnerable than he intended. Safe. I understand. Let's start with your budget. We have a range of properties from affordable to luxury, so there's definitely something for everyone, Claire said, her tone professional yet warm. Samuel hesitated, the truth of his financial situation gnawing at him. I don't have much. Just a few thousand saved up. Okay, we can work with that. You'd be surprised at what you can find in New York if you're willing to look a little off the beaten path, Claire reassured him, her eyes sparkling with determination. Come with me, and let's see what we can find. As they moved through the office, Samuel felt a mix of admiration and guilt. Claire was passionate about her job, believing wholeheartedly in her ability to help people find their homes. He wondered what she would think if she knew who he really was, the millionaire hiding behind a facade of poverty. Have you lived in New York long? He inquired as they walked towards a conference room filled with property listings. I've been here for about 3 years now. I love it. Every day is different, and there's so much energy in this city, Claire replied, her enthusiasm infectious. What about you? Are you new here? Just moved in a few weeks ago. I'm still getting used to everything, he said, forcing a smile. They settled in at a large table covered in glossy magazines and property brochures. Samuel watched as Claire animatedly flipped through the pages, her fingers dancing over images of luxurious apartments with sweeping city views and modern amenities. Here's one that might interest you, she said, pointing to a small studio in the East Village. It's affordable and in a great neighborhood. The rent is a bit lower than most places, but it has character. Samuel leaned closer to examine the image. The apartment looked quaint, filled with vintage charm. It looks nice, he admitted, trying to suppress the pang of longing he felt. Nice? Just nice? This place has a rooftop garden. Claire exclaimed, her eyes lighting up. Imagine having coffee up there in the mornings, surrounded by the skyline. It's perfect for someone like you. He chuckled softly, appreciating her enthusiasm. I suppose it would be nice. I didn't expect to find something like this. See? You have to keep an open mind, she replied with a teasing grin. Let's schedule a viewing. As they set a date for the tour, Samuel felt a warmth spreading through him. Claire's genuine desire to help others was refreshing, a stark contrast to the cutthroat world of business he was accustomed to. Yet, with every passing moment, the weight of his secret loomed larger. Later that week, they stood in the East Village apartment, sunlight streaming through the windows, casting a golden hue over the space. Samuel looked around, imagining the life he could build here, a life free from the burdens of his past. What do you think? Claire asked, her voice soft and hopeful. It's amazing, he replied, his voice thick with emotion. I never thought I'd find something like this. Claire beamed at him, her smile brightening the room. I'm so glad you like it. It's a hidden gem for sure, and I think it could be a great fit for you. As they walked through the apartment, Samuel found himself drawn to Claire's passion. She moved effortlessly from room to room, her excitement palpable. You could paint the walls any color you want. And this nook by the window? Perfect for a reading corner, she suggested, gesturing animatedly. Samuel couldn't help but smile. You really love what you do, don't you? It's my dream job. Helping people find their homes, their safe spaces. There's nothing more fulfilling, she said, her eyes sparkling. And I get to meet so many interesting people along the way. Interesting people, huh? He teased lightly, trying to hide the deepening connection he felt. Am I interesting? Of course. Claire laughed, her voice ringing like music in the air. You've got a story. I can see it in your eyes. There's depth there. Samuel felt a twinge of panic at the thought of revealing too much. He wanted to share his past, but could he risk it? Would it shatter the delicate bond they were forming? "I'm just a regular guy trying to make a living," he said, downplaying his reality. "Regular guys have stories too," she replied, her tone serious for a moment. "Everyone has battles they fight, and it's those stories that make us who we are." Samuel looked into Claire's eyes, the sincerity in her gaze making his heart race. In that moment, he wanted nothing more than to share his truth with her, but the fear of losing her held him back. Instead, he changed the subject. "What's your story?" Claire's expression softened, and she began to share snippets of her life, how she had grown up in a small town, always dreaming of the big city. "I wanted to be part of something bigger," she said, her voice filled with passion. "And New York? It's the heart of everything." Samuel listened intently, captivated by her journey. He admired her tenacity and the way her dreams shaped her reality. As she spoke, he felt the walls he had built around himself begin to crumble. "Maybe one day I'll be able to share my story too," he said quietly. Claire smiled, a gentle encouragement in her expression. "I'd love to hear it. I think it's important to share our truths." As they stepped out of the apartment, the bustling streets of New York surrounded them, the energy of the city pulsing through the air. Samuel felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. He was falling for Claire, but the truth of his identity weighed heavily on him. "Let's grab a coffee," Claire suggested, breaking through his thoughts. "I know a great little place just around the corner." "Sure, that sounds great," Samuel replied, his heart racing. As they walked side by side, he felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps, in this new chapter of his life, he could find a way to be both Samuel and the man he truly was. As bright lights of Manhattan flickered like stars against the night sky, illuminating the luxurious penthouse where the launch event was set to take place, Samuel Hawthorne stood at the back of the room, his heart pounding in his chest. The air was thick with anticipation, the scent of expensive perfumes and colognes mingling with the aroma of gourmet hors d'oeuvres. A grand chandelier hung above, casting a warm glow over the elite crowd that had gathered to celebrate Victor Lanchester's latest real estate venture. Samuel adjusted his jacket, the fabric worn and frayed, a stark contrast to the designer outfits surrounding him. He felt out of place, a mere shadow among the gleaming figures of wealth and power. Yet, he was determined. Today was the day he would confront Victor, the man responsible for the ruin of so many lives, including his own. "Are you sure about this?" Claire's voice broke through his thoughts, her eyes searching his face for reassurance. She stood beside him, dressed in a sleek red dress that hugged her figure perfectly. Her hair fell in soft waves around her shoulders, and the confidence she exuded made Samuel's heart race for reasons beyond the impending confrontation. "More than ever," Samuel replied, his voice steady despite the turmoil within. "It's time to end this." Claire nodded, though her brow was furrowed with concern. I don't want you to get hurt, Samuel. This is a powerful man we're dealing with." "I know," he said, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "But he needs to be held accountable. People deserve to know the truth." As the guests mingled, Samuel's eyes scanned the room, searching for Victor. He spotted him across the space, laughing with a group of potential buyers, his charm radiating like a spotlight. Victor was the picture of success, dressed in a tailored suit that seemed to sparkle under the lights, a stark contrast to the man Samuel had come to know through his deceitful practices. "Look at him," Samuel muttered, his fists clenching at his sides. "He acts like he's done nothing wrong." "Just remember why we're here," Claire said softly. "You're not just exposing him, you're helping those who've suffered because of his greed." "I won't forget," Samuel replied, taking a deep breath to steady himself. "Let's do this." As the evening progressed, the crowd gathered around the stage, where Victor was about to make his grand speech. Claire squeezed Samuel's hand, her eyes filled with determination. "This is it," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the chatter. Victor stepped up to the microphone, his presence commanding the room. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his voice smooth and confident. "Thank you all for being here tonight to celebrate not just a new venture, but the dawn of a new era in real estate. Together, we're building dreams." The audience erupted in applause, and Samuel felt a surge of anger. Dreams? Victor had built his empire on the ruins of others' lives. He couldn't let this continue. As Victor continued to speak about his so-called accomplishments, Samuel's mind raced. He glanced at Claire, who was watching with rapt attention. Her belief in him gave him the strength he needed. This was the moment. "Excuse me," Samuel shouted, stepping forward, his voice cutting through the applause. The room fell silent, all eyes turning toward him. Victor's confident facade faltered for a moment, surprise flickering across his features. "Who the hell are you?" Victor demanded, his tone dripping with disdain. "I'm someone you've wronged, Victor," Samuel replied, his voice steady despite the tremor in his heart. "And I'm here to expose you for what you truly are." Gasps filled the room, and Claire's eyes widened in shock. Samuel pressed on, fueled by the urgency of the moment. "You've lied, cheated, and manipulated your way to the top, and it's time for the truth to come out." Victor smirked, regaining his composure. "And who are you to stand here and accuse me? You're just a nobody, a washed-up dreamer." "I'm not a nobody," Samuel shot back, his voice rising with passion. "I'm a man who has seen the consequences of your actions. You've scammed innocent families out of their homes, and I'm here to make sure everyone knows it." The crowd murmured, confusion and curiosity etched on their faces. Samuel could see a few people whispering among themselves, their expressions shifting from skepticism to intrigue. "Do you have any proof?" Victor challenged, folding his arms across his chest, a sneer on his lips. "Or are you just another bitter loser trying to drag me down?" "I do have proof," Samuel declared, his heart racing. He pulled out a stack of documents from his worn messenger bag, the evidence of Victor's corrupt dealings. "These are records of your shady transactions, the lies you fed to desperate buyers. You've taken advantage of the vulnerable, and it's time for the world to see who you really are." He handed the documents to a nearby journalist, who had been filming the entire exchange. The journalist's eyes widened as she reviewed the papers, her expression shifting from disbelief to determination. Victor's facade began to crack as the crowd reacted, whispers of shock and outrage spreading through the room. "This is absurd. You think you can just waltz in here and ruin my reputation?" he shouted, his voice rising in panic. "I'm not ruining anything," Samuel replied, his resolve unwavering. "You did that all on your own. Now it's time for the truth to come out." Claire stepped forward, her eyes blazing with conviction. "And I stand with him. You may have fooled everyone here, but the truth cannot be hidden forever, Victor. You're not just a businessman, you're a criminal." The crowd erupted into a mix of cheers and jeers, the tension in the room palpable. Samuel felt a surge of hope as he saw people nodding in agreement, their expressions shifting from loyalty to Victor to indignation at his actions. Victor's face turned crimson, and for a moment, he looked vulnerable. "You'll regret this," he spat, his voice laced with venom. "I have the power to destroy you." "Not anymore," Samuel said, his voice firm. "Your power comes from lies, and lies can only last so long. The truth is stronger, and it's time for it to shine." With that, Samuel stepped back, allowing the buzz of conversation to swell around him. The crowd was alive with energy, a mixture of fury and excitement. Claire stood beside him, her expression a mix of pride and disbelief. "You did it," she whispered, her eyes shimmering with admiration. "You actually did it." "I couldn't have done it without you," Samuel said, his heart swelling with gratitude. "You believed in me when I didn't even believe in myself." As chaos erupted around them, Samuel felt a weight lift from his shoulders. For the first time in years, he wasn't just a man with wealth, he was a man with purpose. Together, he and Claire had taken a stand against corruption, and as they stood side by side, he realized that they were more than just allies in this fight. They were partners in every sense of the word. The evening air buzzed with anticipation as the grand launch event for Victor Lanchester's latest luxury development approached. The venue, an opulent ballroom adorned with golden chandeliers and lavish floral arrangements, was filled with New York's elite, investors, socialites, and influencers, all eager to witness the unveiling of what Victor had dubbed the pinnacle of urban living. Samuel Hawthorne stood at the back of the room, his heart racing as he took in the scene. He was still dressed in his simple clothing, a deliberate choice that felt both foreign and liberating. "Are you sure about this?" Claire's voice broke through his reverie, laced with concern. She had approached him, her elegant dress contrasting sharply with his shabby attire. Her eyes searched his, filled with a mix of admiration and worry. "I have to do this, Claire," Samuel replied, his voice steady despite the storm of emotions swirling inside him. "Victor has exploited so many people. He needs to be stopped." Claire bit her lip, glancing towards the stage where Victor was preparing to speak. But what if he retaliates? What if this ruins everything? Samuel took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. "I've lived in fear for too long, hiding behind my wealth. Tonight, I'm not just exposing Victor, I'm reclaiming my life, and I need you by my side." Claire nodded slowly, her resolve strengthening. "I'm with you, Samuel. Just promise me you'll be careful." They shared a moment of quiet understanding, a bond that had deepened over the weeks they had spent together. Claire had no idea of Samuel's true identity, but she had seen his heart, his passion for justice. As they walked towards the front of the room, Samuel's mind raced with thoughts of what was to come. The lights dimmed, and the audience hushed as Victor stepped onto the stage, radiating confidence. Clad in a tailored suit that screamed luxury, he greeted the crowd with a charming smile. "Welcome, everyone. Tonight, we celebrate not just a new development, but a vision of prosperity and grandeur in our beloved city." Samuel clenched his fists, feeling the anger boil within him. The man who stood before them had built his empire on deception and greed. With Claire by his side, he had prepared a powerful speech, one that would expose Victor's lies. But first, he needed to wait for the right moment. Victor continued, his voice smooth and persuasive. "This project will redefine urban living, bringing together the finest in architecture and design. I invite you all to experience the luxury that awaits within these walls." He gestured grandly, and the crowd erupted in applause. Samuel's heart raced as he caught Claire's eye. She smiled encouragingly, and he knew it was time. He stepped forward, his presence commanding attention as whispers rippled through the crowd. Victor's smile faltered slightly, perplexed by the interruption. "Excuse me, Victor," Samuel called out, his voice steady but firm. "We need to talk about the truth behind this development." Gasps filled the room, and a few people shifted uncomfortably. Victor's expression shifted from surprise to annoyance. "Who are you?" he demanded, his tone icy. "Someone who knows what you've been doing," Samuel replied, stepping closer to the stage. "You've lied, cheated, and manipulated your way to the top, leaving a trail of victims in your wake." The audience was silent, their curiosity piqued. Claire watched with wide eyes, her heart pounding as she grappled with the unfolding drama. "What are you talking about?" Victor scoffed, regaining his composure. "This is defamation." "No, Victor," Samuel shot back, his voice rising in intensity. "This is justice. You've been taking advantage of vulnerable families, inflating prices, and using corrupt tactics to acquire properties. You've ruined lives that matter." A murmur spread through the crowd, the atmosphere thick with tension. Samuel glanced at Claire, who was now standing with her arms crossed, her expression a mix of concern and pride. She believed in him, and that was all he needed. Victor's face turned a shade of crimson, and he stepped towards Samuel, his demeanor aggressive. "You think you can just walk in here and tarnish my reputation? You have no idea who you're dealing with." "But I do," Samuel shot back, his voice unwavering. "I know you're nothing but a facade, hiding behind wealth and charm. The truth is, you're a coward who preys on the weak." With a swift motion, Samuel unveiled a series of documents from his jacket, a collection of evidence detailing Victor's fraudulent activities. "These are just a few of the records I've gathered," he said, holding them up for all to see. "It's time the world knows who you really are." Gasps erupted from the crowd as Samuel began to outline the evidence against Victor. He spoke passionately, detailing the stories of families who had lost their homes, the lies that had been spun to cover up Victor's misdeeds, and the betrayal that had cost so many their dreams. As he spoke, Claire's heart swelled with admiration. She could see the fire in Samuel's eyes, the conviction that drove him forward. He wasn't just fighting for himself. He was fighting for everyone who had suffered at the hands of Victor Lanchester. "Victor," Samuel continued, his voice resonating through the room, "you may have thought you could get away with this, but your time is up. The truth is powerful, and tonight it will prevail." The crowd began to murmur in agreement, and Samuel could feel the shift in the atmosphere. Victor, cornered and desperate, attempted to regain control. "This is absurd. You're just a failed businessman trying to ruin my reputation out of jealousy." "Failed businessman?" Samuel chuckled, shaking his head. "I'm not here to tear you down because of envy. I'm here because I've learned that true wealth comes from integrity and compassion, not from deceit and greed." Claire stepped forward, her voice steady. "This isn't just about Samuel's past, Victor. It's about the future of our city. We need transparency and honesty in our leaders, not corruption and exploitation." Victor's expression darkened, realizing he was losing the crowd. "You'll regret this, both of you," he hissed, but the weight of his threat felt hollow against the tide of truth being revealed. As Samuel wrapped up his speech, he took a deep breath, feeling the adrenaline coursing through his veins. "I stand here not just as a man with a story, but as a reminder that we can all choose to do better. We can choose to stand up for what is right, even if it means facing our fears." The crowd erupted into applause, the sound echoing through the ballroom, drowning out Victor's protests. Samuel felt a swell of hope as he turned to Claire, who stood beside him with a look of pride and astonishment. As Victor slunk away, humiliated and exposed, Samuel realized that he had not only confronted his past but had also taken a crucial step toward a brighter future. Amidst the chaos, he glanced at Claire, their eyes locking in a moment that felt both transformative and eternal. As lights of the grand ballroom dazzled like stars against the night sky, reflecting off the polished marble floors and glimmering chandeliers that hung majestically from the ceiling, Samuel Hawthorne stood at the edge of the crowd, feeling the weight of the moment press down on him. The air was thick with anticipation as the elite of New York City gathered for the unveiling of Victor Lanchester's latest luxury real estate development. It was a spectacle designed to showcase wealth and glamour, but Samuel was there for a different reason. He wore a tailored suit that felt foreign to him now, a stark contrast to the worn jeans and t-shirts he had grown accustomed to in his time undercover. He could see Claire across the room, her expressive eyes scanning the crowd, looking for him. The warmth of her gaze sent a rush of emotions through him, igniting the turmoil inside. He had never intended to drag her into his vendetta against Victor, yet here they stood, both unaware of the storm that was about to unfold. As the evening progressed, the chatter of the crowd grew louder, filled with laughter and clinking glasses. Samuel's heart raced, and he could feel the adrenaline coursing through his veins. He was about to expose a man who had not only betrayed him, but had also trampled over countless lives in the pursuit of wealth. But the thought of losing Claire, the one person who had seen through his disguise and believed in him, gnawed at his conscience. "Samuel!" Claire's voice broke through his thoughts, and he turned to face her. She approached, her radiant smile lighting up the dimly lit room. "I've been looking everywhere for you. You won't believe how many people want to talk to you." He forced a smile, trying to mask the turmoil beneath the surface. "I'm sure they're all dying to know more about the poor guy who just walked in," he said, a hint of sarcasm lacing his words. Claire laughed, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "Oh, come on. You've charmed half the room already. They're fascinated by your story. It's not every day someone like you walks in looking for a home." Samuel chuckled lightly, but his heart wasn't in it. "Maybe they're just curious about the oddball in the room," he replied, scanning the crowd for Victor. "I'm not here to entertain Claire. I need to focus." Claire's expression shifted, sensing the tension in his voice. "You can't let him get to you. Tonight is about showcasing your strength, your resilience. You've come so far." As she spoke, Samuel couldn't help but admire her unwavering belief in him. "I know, but it's not just about me. It's about everyone affected by Victor's actions. I can't let this opportunity slip away." Claire's brow furrowed in concern. "What do you mean? Are you planning to confront him?" Samuel hesitated, weighing his words carefully. "I have to do something. People need to know the truth about him." Before Claire could respond, the lights dimmed further, and a hush fell over the room. Victor Lanchester stepped onto the stage, his charismatic presence commanding immediate attention. Dressed in an impeccably tailored suit, he exuded confidence as he began his speech. "Ladies and gentlemen," Victor began, his voice smooth and persuasive. "Welcome to the future of luxury living. Tonight, We celebrate not just a new development, but a new standard in real estate." He gestured grandly toward the model of the building behind him, a stunning architectural masterpiece that gleamed under the spotlight. "This is where dreams come true, where wealth meets innovation." Samuel clenched his fists at his sides, feeling the bile rise in his throat. He had witnessed firsthand the damage Victor had caused, the lives he had ruined, and here he was, basking in the adoration of the elite. The crowd erupted into applause, and Samuel's heart raced. This was it. He had to act. "Claire, I need you to trust me," he said, his voice low and urgent as he leaned closer to her. "I have to expose him now. Can you help me?" Claire's eyes widened in shock, but she nodded, her expression resolute. "What do you need me to do?" "Just keep an eye on him. If I signal you, I need you to help draw attention back to me," he replied, his mind racing with the plan that was beginning to take shape. Before Claire could respond, Samuel turned his gaze back to the stage. Victor continued, weaving a tale of success and innovation, but all Samuel could hear were the lies hidden beneath the polished words. He took a deep breath, steeling himself for what was to come. As Victor concluded his speech, the applause thundered through the ballroom, but Samuel could feel the moment slipping away. With a sudden surge of determination, he stepped forward, drawing the attention of the crowd as he approached the stage. The murmurs grew louder, and Victor's confident smile faltered as he noticed Samuel's advance. "Excuse me, Victor," Samuel called out, his voice clear and unwavering. "I think it's time we had a little chat." The crowd fell silent, eyes darting between Samuel and Victor. Curiosity piqued. Claire's heart raced as she watched from the sidelines, her hand instinctively reaching for her phone, ready to document the unfolding drama. Victor's expression shifted from surprise to annoyance. "Samuel Hawthorne, isn't it? What brings you up here? I thought you were just a struggling buyer looking for a place to live." "Funny you should say that," Samuel replied, his tone steady. "Because I've been doing a lot of thinking about what it means to truly live. And what I've learned is that wealth isn't just about money. It's about integrity, honesty, and respect for others." The crowd began to murmur, intrigued by Samuel's boldness. Victor squared his shoulders, attempting to regain control of the situation. "This isn't the time or place for your grievances, Samuel. People are here to celebrate success. And what kind of success is built on lies and deceit?" Samuel challenged, stepping closer to the microphone. "You see, I've uncovered some troubling truths about your business practices, Victor. You've been manipulating the market, exploiting vulnerable families, and engaging in fraudulent activities to line your pockets." Gasps echoed through the room, and Claire's heart raced as she realized the extent of Samuel's confrontation. She could see Victor's face turn a shade paler, the confidence he had exuded moments ago beginning to crumble. "How dare you?" Victor spat, his voice low and dangerous. "You have no proof of any of that." Samuel paused, feeling the weight of the moment. "Actually, I do. And I'm not alone. There are people in this room who have been affected by your greed, people who deserve to be heard." He turned slightly, scanning the faces in the crowd, searching for allies. "I challenge anyone here to step forward if they've been wronged by Victor Lanchester." Silence enveloped the room as Samuel's words hung in the air. Then, a voice broke through the tension, shaky but clear. "I lost my home to him." A woman stepped forward, tears in her eyes. "He promised me a fair deal, but he took everything from me." One by one, others began to speak up, sharing their stories of betrayal and loss. Samuel's heart swelled with hope as he realized that he wasn't alone in this fight. Claire watched, her eyes brimming with pride as she witnessed Samuel's transformation from a man in disguise to a courageous truth-teller. Victor's facade shattered completely as the crowd turned against him, their murmurs growing into a chorus of outrage. "You can't do this," he shouted, desperation seeping into his voice. "You don't know what you're talking about." But Samuel stood firm, resolute in his purpose. "No, Victor, you don't know what it means to be held accountable for your actions. Tonight, the truth is coming to light, and it's time for you to face the consequences." As the crowd continued to rally behind Samuel, he felt a surge of empowerment. In that moment, he was not just a man seeking revenge. He was a voice for the voiceless, a champion for justice. And as he looked out into the faces of those who had suffered, He knew he was exactly where he was meant to be. "Claire," he called out, gesturing for her to join him on stage. "Come here." With a mixture of surprise and determination, Claire stepped forward, her heart racing as she took her place beside him. "What do you need?" she asked, her eyes filled with unwavering support. "Together, we can make a difference," Samuel replied, intertwining their fingers as they faced the crowd. "This isn't just about me anymore. It's about all of us. Let's stand together and reclaim the lives that have been taken from us." The room erupted into applause, a cacophony of voices united in a singular purpose. Samuel and Claire stood side by side, hearts racing, knowing that they had ignited something far greater than themselves. In that moment, as they faced the man who had caused so much pain, they realized that true wealth lay not in possessions, but in the strength of community, integrity, and love. As the evening descended upon the grand venue, the opulence of the event was palpable. Crystal chandeliers sparkled like constellations above, reflecting the eager faces of the elite gathered for Victor Lanchester's newest real estate venture. The buzz of conversation swirled around Samuel Hawthorne, who stood at the edge of the crowd, his heart racing in sync with the pulse of the room. Dressed in a tailored suit that belied his earlier disguise, he was a man on the precipice of revelation, feeling both exhilaration and dread. "Are you sure about this?" Claire's voice cut through his thoughts, her brow furrowed with concern. She stood beside him, her own attire elegant yet understated, embodying the ideal of a woman ready to champion a cause. "You don't have to go through with it. We can just walk away." Samuel turned to her, searching her eyes for reassurance. Those deep, intelligent eyes that had seen through his facade, that had believed in him when he had presented himself as a man of modest means. "I can't walk away, Claire. The stakes are too high. If I don't do this now, Victor will continue to ruin lives without a second thought." Claire took a deep breath, her expression softening. "I understand, but exposing him like this could put you in danger. You know how powerful he is." He nodded, the weight of her words pressing down like an anchor. "I know, but I can't let fear dictate my actions anymore. I've spent too long letting it control me. I need to stand up for those who can't." The tension hung thick in the air as the crowd shifted, murmurs cascading like gentle waves. Samuel's palms were clammy, and he could feel the thrum of anxiety in his chest. He had rehearsed this moment countless times, but now that it was here, the reality was far more daunting than he had anticipated. Across the room, Victor stood with a triumphant smile, his charm radiating as he mingled with potential investors. He was the epitome of confidence, a man who had built his empire on manipulation and deceit. Samuel's heart hardened at the sight. This was the man who had betrayed him and destroyed countless lives in the pursuit of wealth. "Just remember," Claire whispered, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. "You're not alone in this. I'm right here with you." Samuel offered her a grateful smile, feeling a surge of determination. "Thank you, Claire. Your support means everything." As the event began, the lights dimmed slightly, drawing everyone's attention to the stage. Victor stepped forward, his charismatic presence instantly capturing the audience. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me this evening. Tonight, we celebrate not just a project, but a vision for our city's future," he announced, his voice smooth as silk. Samuel's grip tightened on the podium as he prepared to make his move. He glanced at Claire, who gave him a tiny nod, the signal he needed. It was now or never. As Victor continued to speak about his latest development, extolling its virtues and potential, Samuel felt a rush of adrenaline. He stepped forward, interrupting the presentation. "Excuse me, Victor." The crowd turned, murmurs rippling through the audience. Victor's expression shifted from surprise to irritation. "Samuel, what are you doing here? This is a private event." Samuel's heart raced, but he pressed on. "Actually, it's a public event, and I think the public deserves to know the truth about you and your dealings." Gasps echoed around the room, and Claire's eyes widened in alarm. "Samuel, wait," she hissed, but it was too late. "Truth." Victor chuckled, his laughter dripping with disdain. "And what truth do you think you possess, my dear Samuel? You're merely a nobody pretending to be significant." The crowd was now fully engaged, their curiosity piqued. Samuel took a deep breath, channeling every ounce of courage he had. "You're wrong, Victor. I'm not a nobody. I'm someone who has seen the damage you've caused. Your corruption is not just a rumor. It's a reality that has destroyed lives." "Corruption?" Victor scoffed, waving a dismissive hand. "You really think you can come here and tarnish my name based on what? Your paranoia? Your failed business ventures? You're grasping at straws, my friend." Samuel took a step closer, the heat of determination rising within him. "You think you can hide behind your money and charm, but the truth is coming out. You've manipulated the system, taken advantage of the vulnerable, and profited from their misfortunes. I have the proof right here." He reached into his pocket, pulling out a flash drive that contained evidence of Victor's corrupt dealings, meticulously gathered over the weeks he had spent digging into his former partner's affairs. "This drive contains emails, contracts, and testimonies from those you've wronged. It's time for the world to see who you really are." The audience was electric, a mix of shock and anticipation. Claire stood beside him, her expression a blend of pride and fear. "You can do this, Samuel," she whispered, her voice steady despite the chaos. Victor's face blanched, the bravado fading as he realized the gravity of the situation. "You wouldn't dare," he seethed, his eyes narrowing dangerously. Samuel squared his shoulders, feeling a surge of conviction. "I would dare. It's time for you to face the consequences of your actions." With a swift motion, he connected the flash drive to the presentation screen. The room fell silent as images filled the screen, showcasing Victor's dubious business practices, the faces of those he had wronged flashing in rapid succession. Whispers of disbelief rippled through the crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen," Samuel began, his voice steady and resonant. "What you're seeing here is just the tip of the iceberg. Victor has exploited countless individuals, turning their dreams into nightmares for his profit. We must not allow this to continue." Victor's facade crumbled, his rage boiling over. "You're a fool, Samuel. You think this will change anything? You're just a washed-up tech mogul trying to reclaim his glory." "A washed-up tech mogul?" Samuel echoed, his voice rising above the din. "I'm a man who has learned the value of integrity, of standing up for what's right. Unlike you, I won't hide behind my wealth or my charm. I will fight for those who can't fight for themselves." Claire's eyes shone with admiration as she watched Samuel transform into a beacon of hope. The crowd began to murmur, some nodding in agreement while others looked on in disbelief. The tide was turning. "Your empire is built on lies, Victor," Samuel continued, his heart pounding with every word. "And tonight, we're tearing it down." In that moment, Samuel felt a sense of liberation. This wasn't just about exposing Victor. It was about reclaiming his own identity, his own sense of purpose. He had spent too long living in the shadows, and now, with Claire by his side, he was ready to step into the light. The audience erupted into applause, their support echoing through the hall. Claire beamed at him, her pride evident, as Samuel felt the weight of the world lift from his shoulders. He had taken a stand, and he wouldn't back down now. Victor's face twisted in fury as he realized he was losing control. "You think this is over? You have no idea who you're dealing with," he spat, but the confidence in his voice was faltering. "Maybe not," Samuel replied, "but I do know that justice will prevail, and I won't stop until it does." As the applause swelled, Samuel felt a surge of hope. He had stepped into the arena, faced his greatest fear, and emerged stronger. In that moment, he understood that true wealth lay not in material possessions, but in the courage to stand up for what was right, to fight for those who had been silenced. With Claire beside him, he took a deep breath, ready to face whatever came next. Together, they would forge a new path, one that would lead to justice and redemption, not just for themselves, but for all those who had suffered at the hands of greed and corruption. The event hall was buzzing with energy, a grand space adorned with elegant chandeliers that cast a warm, golden light over the crowd gathered for the launch of Victor Lanchester's latest real estate venture. Samuel Hawthorne stood at the entrance, his heart racing as he adjusted the collar of his worn jacket. He had never imagined himself attending such a high-profile event, especially not under these circumstances. "Are you sure about this?" Claire's voice broke through his thoughts, laced with concern. She stood beside him, her eyes reflecting a mix of determination and apprehension. Her sleek black dress hugged her figure perfectly, contrasting sharply with Samuel's ragged appearance. "I have to do this, Claire," he replied, his voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "Victor needs to be stopped, and if we don't expose him now, who will?" Claire nodded slowly, biting her lip. "I just don't want you to get hurt. This is dangerous territory." "I'm not afraid of danger," he said. But the truth was, he was terrified, not just of Victor's potential retaliation, but of losing Claire. The connection they had built over the past few weeks felt fragile, like glass on the brink of shattering. Taking a deep breath, they stepped into the main hall, the atmosphere thick with the chatter of influential figures and the clinking of champagne glasses. Samuel's eyes scanned the crowd, searching for Victor. He spotted him near the stage, effortlessly charming a group of potential investors. The man exuded confidence, his smile disingenuous but captivating. "Look at him," Samuel muttered, anger bubbling beneath the surface. "He's playing the part of the hero." Claire followed his gaze, her expression hardened. "He doesn't deserve it. We need to show everyone who he really is." As the event progressed, Samuel and Claire mingled, engaging in small talk with guests while keeping an eye on Victor. Samuel's heart raced every time Victor laughed or gestured dramatically, a stark reminder of the man who had betrayed him and ruined lives in the process. "Can you believe this?" Claire whispered to Samuel as they stood near the bar, watching Victor accept congratulations from industry insiders. "He's acting like he's done something good for this city. It makes me sick." "It's all a facade," Samuel replied, his voice low. "And it's time to pull the curtain back." The moment arrived when Victor took to the stage, his presence commanding attention. The crowd erupted in applause, and Samuel felt a knot tighten in his stomach. This was it. He needed to act. "Claire, it's now or never," he said, determination flooding his veins. "Wait, are you sure you want to do this in front of everyone?" Claire's eyes widened in alarm. "I can't wait any longer. This isn't just about me. It's about everyone Victor has hurt." With a nod of understanding, Claire stepped back, allowing Samuel to move forward. As he approached the stage, he felt a rush of adrenaline. He had rehearsed this moment in his head countless times, but nothing could prepare him for the reality of standing in front of such a powerful audience. "Excuse me, Victor," he called out, his voice cutting through the applause like a knife. The crowd hushed, turning their attention to him. He could feel their curiosity, their judgment, and a flicker of fear ignited within him. Victor turned, his smile faltering as he recognized Samuel. "Ah, the poor man from earlier. What a surprise to see you here. I hope you're enjoying the festivities." Samuel squared his shoulders, forcing himself to stand tall. "I'm not here to celebrate, Victor. I'm here to expose you for what you really are." A murmur rippled through the audience, and Claire's eyes widened in horror. "Samuel, no," she whispered, but he pressed on, fueled by a mix of anger and righteousness. "Victor Lancaster is not just a successful real estate broker. He is a fraud," Samuel declared, his voice steady despite the tremors in his hands. "He has cheated countless people, manipulating the market and lying to his clients." Gasps echoed through the crowd, and Samuel took a deep breath, locking eyes with Claire. Her expression was a mix of shock and admiration, urging him to continue. While he stands here, basking in the glory of his supposed accomplishments, he has left a trail of destruction in his wake, Samuel continued, his voice growing stronger. "I was once a victim of his deceit, but I'm not alone. There are many others who have lost their homes, their dreams, all because of his greed." Victor's face twisted in anger, and he stepped forward, attempting to regain control of the situation. "This is slander. You have no proof of what you're saying," he shot back, his tone icy. "I have proof. I'll show everyone the truth behind your operations," Samuel retorted, his heart pounding. "I've gathered evidence, records, and testimonies from those you've wronged. You may think you're untouchable, but your reign of deception ends tonight." The crowd shifted uncomfortably. Some guests exchanged glances, while others pulled out their phones, eager to capture the unfolding drama. Samuel could feel the weight of their eyes, their anticipation and disbelief. "Samuel, This isn't the time or place, Victor sneered, trying to regain his composure. You're making a fool of yourself. No, Victor. You're the fool, Samuel shot back, feeling a rush of confidence. You've underestimated the power of those you've tried to silence. With a nod, he motioned to Claire, who stepped forward with her phone in hand. I've been documenting everything, she said, her voice clear and steady. We've spoken to your former clients. They have stories to share. It's time for the world to hear them. As Claire began to play a recording of testimonies from Victor's victims, the atmosphere shifted. The crowd's murmurs grew louder, filled with disbelief and shock. The recordings painted a vivid picture of betrayal and heartache, detailing how Victor's schemes had destroyed lives. Samuel felt a surge of hope as he watched the audience react, their expressions shifting from skepticism to empathy. Claire stood beside him, her presence a source of strength. Victor, your empire built on lies is crumbling, Samuel declared, his voice rising above the crowd. And it's time for you to face the consequences of your actions. Victor's face turned red with fury, and he stepped back, realizing the tide had turned against him. You'll regret this, Samuel. You have no idea who you're dealing with, he spat, but his bravado was fading. No, Victor, Samuel replied, his tone resolute. It's you who will regret crossing me. The truth has a way of coming to light, and tonight, it shines brighter than your lies ever could. The applause erupted, first hesitantly, then building into a roar as the audience rallied behind Samuel's bravery. Claire squeezed his arm, her eyes sparkling with pride and relief. As the crowd began to chant Samuel's name, he felt a warmth spread through him. In that moment, he realized that he had not only confronted Victor, but he had also reclaimed a part of himself that he thought he had lost: his voice, his integrity, and the belief that justice could indeed prevail. Thank you, he shouted, overwhelmed by the support. This isn't just about me. It's about all of us who have been wronged. Together, we can hold those in power accountable. Victor, now visibly shaken, attempted to retreat from the stage, but the crowd was relentless. They had witnessed the truth unfold before their eyes, and there was no escaping the consequences. As Samuel stepped back, looking for Claire in the sea of faces, she beamed at him, her eyes shining with admiration. You did it, Samuel, she exclaimed, breathless. I couldn't have done it without you, he replied, his heart swelling with gratitude. In that moment, he knew that their bond had deepened, forged in the fires of truth and courage. As the crowd continued to rally, Samuel felt an overwhelming sense of purpose. He had taken a stand not only for himself, but for those who had suffered in silence. Looking at Claire, he realized that together, they could turn this moment into something greater, a movement for justice, a fight against corruption, and a chance to rebuild lives. And as the applause echoed around them, Samuel knew that this was just the beginning of their journey. The grand ballroom of the luxurious hotel was a spectacle of opulence, adorned with glittering chandeliers and lavish floral arrangements. Soft music floated through the air, mixing with the murmurs of the elite crowd gathered for Victor Lanchester's high-profile property launch event. As Samuel Hawthorne stood at the edge of the room, his heart raced, each beat echoing in his ears like a drum roll heralding a moment of reckoning. Dressed in a plain, slightly wrinkled suit that he had carefully selected to fit his disguise, Samuel felt the weight of his dual identity pressing down on him. He had spent weeks preparing for this night, and now, with the polished marble floor beneath his feet and the glittering spectacle before him, he felt the gravity of the moment. He was here not just as a simple man seeking a home, but as a man on a mission fueled by justice and the desire to expose the corrupt practices of the very man who had betrayed him, Victor. Are you ready? Claire's soft voice broke through his thoughts. She appeared beside him, her radiant smile momentarily easing his anxiety. Dressed in a stunning navy blue dress that accentuated her figure, she looked every bit the confident real estate agent that she was. Samuel turned to her, his expression a mix of determination and fear. I don't know if I can do this, Claire. What if it all goes wrong? What if I lose you in the process? Claire reached out, placing her hand on his arm, her touch grounding him. Samuel, you've come this far. You've uncovered the truth, and you have the chance to make a real difference. Remember why you're doing this. It's not just for you. It's for everyone affected by Victor's actions. And I'm right here with you." Her words ignited a flicker of courage within him. He took a deep breath, steadying himself. "You're right. I need to do this." As they made their way toward the center of the ballroom, the atmosphere buzzed with excitement and anticipation. Samuel scanned the crowd, his eyes landing on Victor, who stood on a raised platform, exuding charm and confidence as he greeted guests. Dressed in an impeccably tailored suit, Victor was the picture of success, his smile disarming and his posture commanding. Samuel's stomach twisted at the sight. He had once admired this man, had trusted him. Now, he was nothing more than a facade built on deceit. "Look at him," Samuel muttered, a bitter edge to his voice. "He's completely unaware of what's coming." Claire glanced up at him, her expression serious. "We have to wait for the right moment. When he starts his speech, that's your cue." With a nod, Samuel tried to quell the storm of emotions swirling within him. He had rehearsed his speech countless times, yet the thought of standing before the crowd, of unveiling the truth, sent shivers down his spine. As Victor took the stage, the audience erupted in applause. Samuel felt Claire squeeze his hand, a silent affirmation that they were in this together. Victor basked in the attention, his voice smooth and confident. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here tonight to celebrate not just a new development, but a new era in our city's real estate. We're embarking on a journey of luxury, innovation, and a vision for a brighter future." As Victor continued, Samuel's mind raced. He recalled the countless victims of Victor's ruthless business practices, families displaced and dreams shattered. This wasn't just about him anymore. It was about justice for all those who had suffered. "Tonight is not just a celebration," Victor continued. "It's a testament to what ambition and hard work can achieve. I stand here proud, not just as your broker, but as a symbol of success." The crowd erupted in cheers, but Samuel felt his resolve harden. This was the moment. He took a step forward, adrenaline coursing through his veins, and whispered to Claire, "It's time." "Go get him," she replied softly, her eyes filled with encouragement. With his heart pounding against his chest, Samuel approached the stage. As he climbed the steps, the crowd's applause faded into a confused murmur. Victor paused, a frown creasing his brow as he caught sight of Samuel. "What's the meaning of this?" Victor questioned, his tone dripping with condescension. "Who let this man up here?" "Someone who knows the truth," Samuel declared, his voice steady, projecting through the ballroom. "Victor Lanchester is not the man you think he is." Gasps rippled through the crowd as Samuel surveyed the sea of shocked faces. Claire's eyes widened, a mix of surprise and pride, and he felt a surge of strength from her unwavering support. Victor's expression shifted from confusion to anger. "You've made a mistake, my friend. I suggest you leave before you embarrass yourself further." "No, Victor," Samuel pressed on, feeling the weight of the moment. "You've embarrassed yourself. You've built your empire on lies and deceit, exploiting those who trusted you. I'm here to expose your true nature." The atmosphere in the room thickened, tension crackling in the air. Samuel's heart raced as he launched into the details he had painstakingly gathered. Records of fraudulent transactions, testimonies from victims, and evidence of Victor's corrupt practices. Each word was a hammer, chipping away at the carefully constructed facade Victor had built. The crowd was silent now, hanging on Samuel's every word. "You may have fooled many, but the truth is coming out. I've seen the damage you've done to families and lives. No more lies, Victor. It ends tonight." Victor's face blanched, the color draining as Samuel's words sank in. "You don't know what you're doing," he hissed, his voice low and threatening. "You'll regret this." Samuel took a deep breath, steadying himself. "No, Victor. I won't regret this. It's time for everyone to see you for who you really are." Claire stepped forward, her voice calm yet firm. "And it's time for the community to reclaim their power. We will not stand by and let you continue this charade." With that, Samuel revealed the final piece of evidence, a video recording of Victor's shady dealings, shown on a screen that had been set up for the event. Gasps and murmurs erupted from the crowd as the truth unfolded before them. Victor's composure cracked, his eyes darting around the room as he realized the magnitude of what was happening. "This is slander. Lies," he shouted, desperation creeping into his voice. But the crowd's reaction shifted. Anger boiled beneath the surface. "You're a fraud," someone shouted from the back. "You've betrayed us." Samuel felt a rush of exhilaration and fear, the tide turning in his favor. He turned to the crowd, speaking from the heart. "This is not just about Victor. This is about all of us. It's about standing up against corruption and injustice in our city. We have the power to demand better, to hold those in power accountable." The applause that erupted was thunderous, a wave of support that washed over him. Samuel glanced at Claire, her eyes shining with pride and admiration. In that moment, he realized that he was not alone. They were a force together, ready to challenge the status quo. As Victor stumbled back, his facade crumbling, Samuel felt a sense of liberation wash over him. He had confronted his past, his fears, and the darkness that had threatened to consume him. And in doing so, he had awakened a community ready to rise against the tide of corruption. With the crowd rallying behind him, Samuel stepped down from the stage, buoyed by the realization that he was no longer just a man in disguise. He was a man transformed, driven by purpose and the belief that true wealth lay in integrity, connection, and the courage to fight for what was right. The grand ballroom of the luxurious hotel shimmered with opulence, the crystal chandeliers casting a warm glow over the crowd gathered for the launch event of Victor Lanchester's latest real estate project. The air was thick with the scent of expensive perfumes, and the sound of polite laughter intertwined with the clinking of champagne glasses. Samuel Hawthorne, though dressed in worn clothing to maintain his disguise, felt the weight of the moment pressing down on him. He stood at the edge of the crowd, his heart racing as he scanned the room for Claire. "Are you ready for this?" Claire's voice came from behind him, pulling him from his thoughts. He turned to find her standing there, radiating confidence in a sleek, tailored dress that accentuated her every curve. Her eyes sparkled with excitement, but Samuel could sense a hint of concern beneath her cheerful demeanor. "As ready as I'll ever be," Samuel replied, forcing a smile. "But it's not just about me. It's about exposing Victor and what he's done." Claire stepped closer, her expression softening. "You know, you've already shown so much courage just by coming here tonight. I believe in you, Samuel. You're doing the right thing." He took a deep breath, the resolve in her words giving him strength. "I hope you're right. I wish I could tell you everything before this happens. I don't want you to feel betrayed when the truth comes out." Claire's brow furrowed. "What do you mean? You've already shared so much. I understand that you've had a tough time, and that's what matters to me. Just be yourself tonight." Samuel looked down at his shoes, the scuffed leather a stark contrast to the polished footwear of the other attendees. He had spent years in the world of wealth and privilege, yet here he was, shrouded in a facade. "I just fear that my truth will change everything between us." Before Claire could respond, Victor stepped onto the stage, his presence commanding immediate attention. He was dressed impeccably, a tailored suit that screamed power and success. The crowd erupted into applause, and Samuel felt a pang of anger rise within him. He was a master of deception, and tonight, he would be exposed. "Ladies and gentlemen," Victor began, his voice smooth and charismatic. "Welcome to the launch of our latest venture, the Lanchester High-Rise, a symbol of luxury, innovation, and the future of real estate in New York City." The crowd cheered, and Samuel's heart raced. "Now, I know that many of you have placed your trust in us, and I assure you that we will not disappoint. Our team has worked tirelessly to bring you the best in modern living," Victor continued, gesturing broadly to the lavish visual displays behind him. "This is not just an investment, it's a lifestyle choice." As the applause echoed around the room, Samuel felt the anger simmering beneath his calm exterior. This man, who had caused so much pain and suffering, was basking in the adoration of the very people he had deceived. "Samuel, are you okay?" Claire's voice broke through his thoughts, her hand gently resting on his arm. "Not really," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "I can't stand watching him lie. It's time." "Then let's do this," Claire urged, her determination igniting a spark within him. As Victor continued his speech, Detailing the features of the new high-rise and the imagined lives of those who would inhabit it, Samuel took a step back, his mind racing with thoughts of how to execute their plan. The moment was drawing near, and he could feel the weight of the truth pressing down on him. "Ladies and gentlemen," Victor continued, "I'd like to take this opportunity to thank my partner, Claire. Her vision and hard work have been invaluable to our success." Samuel's heart sank. Claire was being heralded as a collaborator in Victor's empire, and he felt the need to protect her from the fallout that would ensue. He had to act now. "Claire," he said urgently, "I need you to trust me. When I stand up, I want you to back me up. We can't let him get away with this." "What do you mean?" Claire asked, her brow furrowing in concern. "I'm going to expose him. I can't let him manipulate you or anyone else any longer," he replied, determination coursing through him. As he looked into her eyes, he could see the flicker of fear mixed with admiration. "Okay, Samuel, I trust you," she said, squeezing his hand tightly. The crowd had begun to settle, and Samuel knew the time had come. With a deep breath, he stood up and cleared his throat. "Excuse me, may I have your attention, please?" The room fell silent, all eyes turning toward him. Victor's confident demeanor faltered for a moment, surprise evident on his face. "Who are you?" he demanded, a hint of annoyance creeping into his voice. "I'm Samuel Hawthorne, and I have something important to say," he replied, his voice steady despite the chaos inside him. "Samuel, you're just another one of those desperate buyers, aren't you? What do you want?" Victor sneered, trying to regain control of the situation. "I'm here to expose the truth about Victor Lanchester and the corruption behind this project," Samuel declared, his voice rising with conviction. "Victor has been deceiving you all. He's been involved in fraudulent practices, manipulating the market for his own gain, and ruining the lives of countless people." Gasps rippled through the crowd, and Samuel pressed on, feeling the adrenaline surge. "I know this because I was one of those victims. I lost everything because of his betrayal, and I've spent months gathering evidence of his wrongdoing." Victor's face turned crimson with anger. "You have no proof. This is slander." "Oh, but I do," Samuel continued, his heart racing. "I've documented every transaction, every lie. You can't hide behind your charm any longer." He paused, his eyes scanning the crowd. "I've seen how this man operates, how he preys on the vulnerable, using his power to crush those who stand in his way." Claire stepped forward, her voice firm and unyielding. "I can back him up. I thought I was working with a partner who had integrity, but I see now that I was wrong. Samuel's right. We cannot allow this kind of deception to continue." The crowd murmured, confusion and disbelief mingling in the air. Samuel felt the weight of their gaze, a mix of skepticism and curiosity. "I know this is hard to believe," he said, lowering his voice to a more personal tone. "But I ask you to look beyond the surface. We deserve better than this." Victor's composure shattered, and he took a step forward, his voice dripping with venom. "You think you can ruin me? You're nothing. Just a washed-up tech mogul hiding behind a facade." "No," Samuel replied, his voice steady. "I'm a man who has learned the hard way what true wealth means. It's not about money or status. It's about honesty, integrity, and standing up for what's right." As Samuel finished, the room fell into a stunned silence. The tension was palpable, and he could see Claire's eyes shining with pride and support. He had done it. He had taken the first step toward justice. Victor's face twisted in rage, and he opened his mouth to retaliate, but the sound of sirens blaring in the distance cut through the air, signaling the arrival of law enforcement. The crowd began to stir, and Samuel felt a surge of hope. "Your time is up, Victor," he said, a sense of satisfaction washing over him. "The truth is out, and justice will prevail." As the police entered the ballroom, Samuel felt a mix of relief and anxiety. He had exposed Victor, but he also feared for Claire's reaction when she learned the full extent of his deception. Would she still see him as the man she had come to care for? But as he looked at her, he saw determination shining in her eyes, a silent promise that they would face whatever came next together. And in that moment, Samuel Hawthorne understood that true wealth was not measured by money, but by the courage to stand for what is right, the strength to face one's past, and the love that binds us through our shared struggles. As the evening sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm golden hue over the skyline of New York City, the atmosphere inside the lavish penthouse event space was electric. An air of anticipation buzzed among the crowd, filled with influential real estate moguls, media personalities, and hopeful investors, all gathered to witness the unveiling of Victor Lanchester's latest high-end property development. Samuel Hawthorne, dressed in his carefully curated disguise, stood slightly apart from the throng, feeling the weight of his decision pressing down on him like the heavy chandelier overhead. Samuel's heart raced as he glanced around the room. He had spent months preparing for this moment, gathering information, plotting every detail of his plan to expose Victor's corruption. The ambience of wealth and privilege surrounded him, yet his focus was solely on one person, Claire. She was at the center of the crowd, engaging effortlessly with attendees, her laughter ringing like music amidst the clinking of glasses and murmurs of appreciation. The way she moved, full of confidence and grace, made Samuel's chest swell with admiration. As he watched her, memories flooded his mind, countless hours spent together. The way she had opened his eyes to the struggles of the less fortunate, how she had believed in him even when he had been at his lowest. The thought of revealing his true identity to Claire filled him with trepidation. Would she see him as a fraud? Would she turn away from him, now that she knew he was a millionaire hiding behind a facade? "Samuel," Claire called out, breaking him from his reverie. She approached with a radiant smile, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "You made it. I was worried you wouldn't come." "Of course, I wouldn't miss it for the world," he replied, his voice steady despite the turmoil inside him. "You've worked so hard for this. I can't believe it's finally happening," she said, her enthusiasm infectious. "Victor has really put together an incredible event. Just look at all these people." Samuel nodded, forcing a smile. He couldn't help but feel a pang of guilt as he realized that all this splendor was built upon deceit. "It's impressive for sure, but do you think it's all legitimate?" Claire's expression shifted slightly, her brow furrowing. "What do you mean?" "I just wonder if the foundation of this entire project is as solid as it appears," he replied cautiously, choosing his words carefully. "You know, in the world of real estate, sometimes things aren't what they seem." Claire studied him for a moment, her eyes narrowing. "You're not suggesting that Victor would..." "I'm not suggesting anything. I'm just saying that it's always good to be vigilant," he interrupted gently, not wanting to reveal too much yet. "Samuel, you've been so pessimistic lately. You need to trust people a little more," she chided lightly, though there was a hint of seriousness in her tone. "Victor has been nothing but supportive of my career." "Right. Supportive," he said, suppressing a scoff. The irony of it all was overwhelming. Claire's belief in Victor was a stark contrast to the reality he had uncovered. "Just remember, Claire, appearances can be deceiving." Before she could respond, the lights dimmed, drawing everyone's attention to the stage where Victor stood, a charismatic smile plastered on his face. "Ladies and gentlemen," he boomed, his voice smooth and commanding. "Welcome. Tonight, we celebrate not just a building, but a vision of luxury, comfort, and opportunity for all." Samuel clenched his jaw, his resolve hardening. As Victor continued to speak about the project's merits, Samuel felt a fire ignite within him. He had to act, and soon. The crowd erupted in applause, and Samuel's heart raced. "Are you okay?" Claire asked, noticing his tense posture. "You seem a bit off." "I'm fine," he said, forcing a smile. "Just excited for what's to come." "Good. I know Victor has big plans for this project, and I want to be a part of it," she said, her eyes sparkling with ambition. "This could change everything for me." "Claire, listen." Samuel hesitated, searching for the right words. "What if I told you that Victor might not be as he seems?" Claire looked taken aback, her brow furrowing. "What do you mean?" "He's helped so many people, including me." "Why would you say that?" "Just trust me," he urged, leaning closer. "I need you to believe that I have evidence, proof that he's involved in some serious shady business. But I need your help to expose him." Her expression softened, concern replacing confusion. "Samuel, I don't know. It sounds serious." "It is serious," he pressed, his voice low. "And I can't do this without you. We need to make this public tonight." "Okay," she said slowly, her gaze intense. What do you need me to do? Just stay close to me, he replied, a plan forming in his mind. When the time comes, I'll need you to help draw attention to Victor. I'll handle the rest. As Victor concluded his speech and the applause echoed through the hall, Samuel felt a rush of adrenaline. It was time. He glanced at Claire, who wore a look of determination mixed with uncertainty. They exchanged a brief nod, a silent agreement forged between them. Victor stepped down from the stage, mingling with the crowd, basking in the adoration of his peers. Samuel and Claire maneuvered through the throng, Samuel's heart pounding in his chest. With every step, he could feel the weight of his decision. This was it. Samuel, a voice called out, cutting through the commotion. Samuel turned to see Victor approaching, his smile wide, eyes gleaming with false charm. The man of the hour. So glad you could join us. Victor, Samuel replied coolly, masking his inner turmoil. Quite the show you've put on. Thank you, thank you. It's all about creating a vision, isn't it? Victor said, his voice dripping with insincerity. I'm glad to see you've decided to come out of hiding and mingle with the elite. Samuel felt a surge of anger. You know, Victor, there's a fine line between vision and deception. Victor raised an eyebrow, intrigued. What do you mean by that? Let's just say some of us have been doing a little digging, Samuel said, his voice steady. And when the truth comes to light, you might find that your empire is built on shaky ground. Victor's smile faltered for a fraction of a second, but he quickly recovered. I don't know what you're talking about, Samuel. Why don't we keep this conversation private? The tension in the air was palpable. Samuel glanced at Claire, who stood just behind him, eyes wide with anticipation. This was it. Ladies and gentlemen, Samuel called out, his voice rising above the chatter, commanding the attention of the crowd. Can I have your attention, please? The room fell silent, eyes turning towards him. Claire felt a rush of exhilaration as she stood alongside Samuel, her heart pounding in sync with his. I have something important to share, Samuel continued, his voice steady. What you see before you is not just a new property development, but a facade hiding corruption and deceit. Gasps echoed through the crowd, and Victor's face paled. What are you doing? He hissed, taking a step closer, but Samuel held his ground. I'm here to expose the truth, Samuel declared, his eyes sweeping over the assembly. Victor Lanchester has been defrauding clients, manipulating the market, and exploiting the very people he claims to help. Claire stepped forward, emboldened by Samuel's courage. I can back him up. I've seen the evidence. Victor's promises are empty, and his dealings are dishonest. The crowd murmured, a wave of disbelief washing over them. Victor's facade crumbled, and fear flashed in his eyes. This is slander. You can't just stand there and accuse me without proof. Samuel smiled, his heart racing with the thrill of the moment. Oh, but I can and I will. I have documents, testimonials, and records that will prove every word I've said. You will be held accountable for your actions. As the murmurs escalated, Samuel felt a surge of relief and pride wash over him. He had taken the plunge, and there was no turning back. The truth was finally emerging from the shadows, and with it, the possibility of justice. Victor stood frozen, his confidence shattered as the crowd began to buzz with energy and speculation. Samuel glanced at Claire, who looked both astonished and proud. Thank you for believing in me, he whispered, the weight of their shared journey hanging in the air between them. I always believed in you, she replied, her eyes glistening with admiration. And I'm glad we're doing this together. With the truth on their side, Samuel felt an unfamiliar sense of hope bloom within him. No longer a man hiding behind a mask, he was stepping into the light, ready to reclaim not just his life, but the lives of those affected by Victor's deceptions. Together with Claire, they would fight for justice, and perhaps in doing so, they would find something even more valuable, a shared future built on honesty and integrity.